My guest at this time is a WWE Hall of Famer, former WWE World Champion, who has recently joined the SWE management team. It is the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me here today.
I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
No problem, man. Teddy Long was nice enough to put us in touch together. I'm so happy we can chat here, man. I love the work he and SWE have been doing. He talked a little bit about you working backstage as well the last time we caught up, but sounds like your role has evolved, Mark. You've joined the management team for SWE. What does that mean? What exactly does your new role entail?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is I've been blessed in my 26 years to work in the biggest company in the world.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of education of how to run the business, what's effective and what's not in running a business, and why you do things and when you do things. And some of that stuff, even if you had a wrestling company you've been running for years, and you have somebody that can come in and say, hey, man, I paid attention and I know how this works.
Yeah.
Then, you know, why look a gift horse in the mouth? You bring that person in to help you make everything more efficient and make everything better.
Yeah, absolutely. So your role here is to just kind of help SWE grow in general. What are some of your goals? What are some things you think would work for SWE when you think about what does and doesn't work in the world of promoting and helping to build a brand there?
Talent and characters run wrestling.
Yeah.
So the number one thing is the character development. They have to get better with developing the talent that are on the program. The trying to figure out like why you do things and who you do it with is a complicated conversation. So you have to be able to pull people aside and go, hey, there's plans for you down the road, but right now, this is what we need to make the business better. If you can stick it out and you can wait until this time, because in a lot of companies, people get smoke blown their way so much that they get disenfranchised with those people. I don't want SWE to do that. Like, don't string people along. If you're not going to use them, tell them, I'm not going to use you. We have other people in mind right now, but if you can wait, then it'd be great. But if not, then go away and do what you want to do, and then we'll call you back, or you can check in with us later on. Like, be transparent. Like, a lot of companies are not.
Yeah.
And the WWE has always been a company that had some transparency because they can. They can say, hey, we're going this direction. A lot of people can't handle that. And I don't want those people to work for me. I don't want those people that are weak in their constitution as it revolves around their ego. And I mean, man, I've been around the best wrestlers on the planet for 26 years.
Yeah.
And I've seen the best guys, the top 5 wrestlers probably of all time, realize, you know what, you're right. It's more about that than it is about me. Let's come back to me in a year, or let's come back to me in 2 years, and then I can do this. Like, that's a learned thing. You can't, you can't just expect that kind of stuff to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And, Mark, it's got to be really rewarding, I would think, for you. Having everybody watched you grow in the ring over those 26 years. I was a kid in Houston, Texas. I went to the Summit. I think I saw one of your first WWF appearances ever in like 1996, and you were wearing the American, tracksuit and everything. And you've grown into a world champion and one of the best performers of all time. It's got to be really rewarding for you to be able to help these wrestlers start their journey and see it through, kind of like we all got to watch you play out your journey as well in WWE.
It is. And, I have an eye for talent, and I have an eye for what can be done to accentuate things. And when I do my wrestling seminars, I always say the how is the least important.
Hmm.
Even though it is important to know how to do everything.
Yeah.
To make sure that you body slam correctly, make sure you run the ropes correctly, make sure that you grab a headlock or you grab a wrist lock. Everything has got to be precise and done with a lot of, I guess, you got to have a lot of fervor for it. You got to really want to do it and love it to learn how to do everything.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of places around the world that are teaching how. What I emphasize is, when do you do things and why do you do things? And as a wrestling fan, you always want to know. That's the first thing that people say when something happens. Why would he do that? Why would she do that? And you have to be able to know that stuff is taught.
Yeah, absolutely.
When do you do it? When is the right time to pull the rug from beneath somebody? When is the right time to raise their hand? When is the right time for that person to come back from being beat almost lifeless, and they get their gears going and they get the ball rolling downhill, and then boom, you get the big finish. Like, those are important things. And a lot of times in independent wrestling, people are characters of pro wrestling. They watch the high level pro wrestlers and they copy it, they mimic it, but not without understanding why that happened and when you're supposed to do it. That's why I'm helping.
So for you, Mark, I mean, obviously you Olympic level power lifter, that's kind of, and I think I read recently Vince McMahon saw you at like a dunk contest or something as well. Like, he had been like keeping his eye on you for a while. When it comes time for you to like keep your eye out for talent right now, do you like looking at independent wrestling, or do you like to kind of look outside the box like you were? Do you like to go to, I know you do some arm wrestling as well. Like, are you going to these other non-wrestling?
No, that arm wrestling thing was garbage. Like, I met the guy, and he said he invited me to come and watch. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. He said, man, we'll pay you and yada, yada, yada. I said, listen, man, I'll get my kids and I'll come. And he was like, man, you mind doing a photo op with one of our champions? And I was like, no, I don't mind, like, whatever, man.
Sure.
But what he did was he put me face to face with somebody and used it like an advertisement. And you can't advertise Mark Henry without that check being cleared.
Okay, yeah, that's a bad idea.
And so I was a little bit aggravated, and I told them to take it down. Don't use me. Otherwise, my lawyer will come looking for y'all. And you're going to pay me what I always get. And if you want to get sued, then, use my likeness again. So that's how that happened. But, there's three different things. There's powerlifting.
Yeah.
There's Olympic lifting, and then there's strongman.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean to correct you, but like I want people to know that there is a difference. And I've been national champion in all three, and I've been world champion in two of the three, and world champion again in pro wrestling. So to be the only person walking earth that's been able to do something and be a world champion in three different things that have nothing to do with each other,
yeah, is
highly unlikely as well as incredible. And it took me all this time for me to be retired, to really kind of love and respect myself for what I've done. And because I always felt like it was arrogant to point out your successes without being prompted to point out your successes. But from a teaching standpoint and understanding of success, you want successful people around you to mentor you. You want successful people that have been successful in multiple different facets to be around to make sure that you're making the right moves. And that is something that I hang my hat on. Is I've been blessed to have a lot of success, and there's a one common denominator of all the things that I've done, and that's hard work. And SWE will be one of the hardest working, if not the hardest working independent company in the world.
Yeah.
And that's not bragging. That's just telling the truth. Like, is the also being steady. Like, you're a broadcast guy, you're a podcaster, you're a journalist. Like, if you choose to do that, why not look at the best 5 people in the world as motivation to get better? That's what I do. I always, use that moniker. That's what I do as something just to get people's attention.
Yeah.
But it's exactly the truth. And that's why it became something that I said, is because I believe that. Like, I'm born for this. That's what I do. I'm success. And SWE is going to be a byproduct. They're going to win using the byproduct of me having that successful attitude.
And Mark, that's awesome. You're bringing this attitude to SWE, and the entire promotion really feels like it's gaining traction very quickly here, especially with bringing in Kaz XL and you and Teddy's there and everything like that. Do you see SWE
now being on Fight TV,
yep,
as well as producing content that people will pay to see?
Yeah,
because a lot of independent wrestling is high spots and flipping and flying, and the stuff don't tie off.
Yeah.
And I'm a movie fan. I love going to the movies. The hardest thing of the pandemic is not to be able to go to the movies and eat popcorn with my kids. Yeah. That's been the hardest thing of the pandemic for me, is not being able to go watch movies. So when I go to a movie and there's holes in the story, and you look at something and go, oh, that would never happen, that's stupid. SWE won't be doing that. Because when I go to, before the pandemic, I would go to dozens of independent shows looking for talent. And there's nothing that turned me off more than to see somebody do something that I just go, oh, gosh, SWE will not be doing that.
Yeah.
So when you buy an SWE show, expect everything to line up, everything to be understood, there to be nothing left to interpretation. And that's what makes wrestling good. And that's what's going to make SWE one of the top wrestling companies in the next 5 years.
Yeah. And obviously, Mark, you have great ties with WWE. I was thinking about the guys that have really been lifers for as long as you've been there. And it's a very, very small list, right? A lot of guys have gone elsewhere or come back or whatever. And you've been there the whole time. With SWE, do you want to keep it its own thing? Or do you have ambitions of maybe, we've seen the Evolve a WWE relationship play out. There's different companies that, kind of work as feeders into WWE. Do you see the SWE WWE relationship improving, or do you want to keep those things separately?
You know what? I can see that being something that down the road, if the WWE agreed to that, or saw the value in that. But I don't know if SWE is going to be ready right now to share what they need to build themselves first. And that's what I'm helping them do. I'm helping them build themselves to be a more viable and valuable commodity, so that the WWE can go, oh, man, I like what they're doing over there. Like, until that time comes, I think it's best to stand alone until they can garner that kind of attention.
Okay. And, about a month ago, you were on Busted Open, where you're there every Friday, I believe. You mentioned that you saw yourself having a match in the next 6 months. Now we're down to 5 now, because that was a month ago. A lot of people, jump to the conclusion, well, that WWE would be a great spot for you. But with this relationship with SWE, is there any thoughts about you maybe having that first match there, or maybe somewhere else outside of WWE?
Yeah, I haven't thought one bit about who or where or when. I just know that, well, the when is going to be after my birthday. It's going to be after June 12th. I'll be 50 years old, and I want to be able to say I wrestled after I was 50 and had a good match. I wrestled in 4 decades, and that I was able to help somebody in the process or bring attention to somebody that nobody knew. So that's the whole point in me doing it.
Okay. I mean, I guess the elephant in the room then would be, I brought up, 26 years, you've always been very loyal to WWE. Is there any chance we would ever see you in an AEW ring, or is that something you're taking off the table?
In where?
In an AEW ring to have that match, like, or doing anything?
I don't know. I think that I'm kind of right now the WWE lifer.
Yeah.
But like only God knows what the future holds. I plan on doing the best that I could do wherever I'm wanted. And if the WWE wants me, then I'm going to do my best there.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Well, Mark, I want to thank you so much for the time, man. You're a huge acquisition for SWE, especially in a management capacity. I just think it's so wonderful. I was talking to JTG just a couple days ago. We were kind of reflecting on Crime Time, and he talked about how there were no black writers when they were writing those promos for Crime Time. And I think that it's just as important to have that kind of diversity and growth behind the scenes as it is in the ring as well. And the work that you and Teddy are doing, I just think it's really great, Mark, because just to be kind of blunt, there's not like any, black wrestling promoters. There's really not that many in the business at all, and I just think it's awesome that you're stepping into that role, man.
Well, I take a lot of pride in it, man. I appreciate you recognizing that. I want to be a great promoter. I want to be a great booker. I want to be a great teacher. It just happens that I'm an African-American, that I'm a black man.
Right.
And I take a lot of pride in being me. And if I can make other black men look good by my success, then that's what I'm going to do.
Awesome, Mark. Well, what a great note to end on. Where do you want to send people to find you, SWE, support, all of that? Where would you like to send folks right now?
You know what? You can go on all social media platforms and look up The Mark Henry or at The Mark Henry or hashtag The Mark Henry. Man, the WWE is where my home is, and SWE is the place where I get to explore all the things that I've learned in my life and see where I'm the best fit, and I'm enjoying doing that. It's not a hobby, like I play video games as a hobby. I watch movies as a hobby. SWE is an endeavor. Is something that I'm doing to find out where I'm the sharpest. And anybody that ever heard that term, I may not be the sharpest, but I'll cut you. Like every blade I got will cut you. And, I just want to make sure that which one is the sharpest. And the only way to do that is to practice.